Good morning, everybody. Can you all hear me okay? Someone just give me the heads up. Let me know the sound is all right, please. All right. Thank you all. I appreciate it. All right. We'll go ahead and get started. We can join palms and repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. And keeping the palms joined. All right. Thanks for being here. Nice to see you all. We'll go ahead and get started with a question this morning. As soon as I come up with one. For those who are brand new or joining us for the first time, welcome. I'd like to start with a question just to kind of help people start communicating with each other, even just virtually here. So my question this morning is, how different is it for you practicing at home versus, and for those of you who are typically going to the Dharma Bum Temple, or if you've never been there, for those of you who maybe go elsewhere, how difficult is your meditation practice at home, really, compared to going somewhere? Your answers can be as long or short as you like. Just a simple expression is fine. I'll go ahead and type that in here. Home compared being at temple or wherever you usually go. How difficult is your practice at home compared to being at temple or wherever you usually go? And again, for those of you who are maybe here for the first time and maybe you've never gone anywhere, maybe you can just express what your expectations are sitting at a temple or at home. For a lot of people, and I bring this up as we approach really almost 9 months that we've been closed, 8+ months. And I always talk about at Dharma Bum Temple how we practice here, but really with the intention of being able to bring this practice home and wherever we go. And of course, every time I'd share that, it was not with the mindset that we would end up being closed for 8 to 9 months. So you've been really put in a situation where practicing at home is about all you have. So just curious to know people's thoughts and feedbacks on the challenges or difficulties they're having sitting at home. Very challenging, easy to postpone and not complete. Yeah, definitely, Amy. It's, especially if you're used to coming to Dharma Bums Saturday morning, 11 o'clock, you have from 11 to 12 and that's it. So you're there at, 10:50, 10:55, 11 o'clock. And as you sit down, you start and you're going to stay there for an hour. At home, if we tell ourselves, I'm going to start at 11, next thing you know, it's 11:30. And we want to sit for 20 minutes. And next thing you know, it's 11:36 and the phone rings and we just give up. So those challenges of sitting at home are very common. Similar, getting used to virtual. Yeah, I think we're in a situation where right now we don't have much of a choice but to get used to it. So we're trying our best to get used to sitting virtually. I miss the connection of all the people in person, but virtual connection is better than practicing entirely on my own. Yeah, I agree as well that we kind of use what we have. And since this is what we have, this is what we use. So obviously staring at a screen and seeing people's names doesn't replace sitting together, but it is better than nothing. So Benton, hello from San Francisco, one of my favorite places in the world. Glad you could join us this morning. Give me 1 second speaking of which, you keep typing, give me 1 second while I grab this phone call. How are you? Hi. Yep, you can leave the door. Thank you. Okay, bye. See, there we go. If I'm sitting at a temple right now and my phone rings, actually the phone would be off, so I wouldn't have answered it unless it was an emergency, of course. But now that I'm sitting here with all of you, I get to answer my phone and send a text message and do all those things that typically I wouldn't do. All right, liking virtual, but I miss my Sangha. Yeah, definitely. I think we all miss seeing each other and being together. Grateful you are here through it all, even during the holidays. Absolutely, Benton. I always talk about the holidays being, even in just a typical year where we're not dealing with a pandemic, the holidays for many people are wonderful and a very happy, joyous time. And that's great. But for a lot of people, it's an incredibly challenging and more difficult time of year. It's a lonely time of year. It's a sad time of year. You're thinking of family or friends, loved ones that are lost or far away, those you can't see right now. So there's a lot of challenges, more so now than ever, around the holiday time. Those who battle addiction, these are very difficult times for that as well. So, during this holiday time, we're just trying to be there as much, if not more than ever, in any way we can. So, sitting with DBT over Zoom on the weekends makes my practice much easier. Absolutely. A bit harder. The temple and Sangha served as a good motivator and make the practice more enjoyable. Yeah, again, it's nice to have that. And that's why temples are built. It's nice to have that space to go to kind of sit and be and leave everything alone. Staying consistent with daily meditation. I miss sitting with Sangha for group meditation. Meditation has been helpful during these trying times. Yeah, absolutely. I think, I always talk about having to use this and wanting to use this at home. So, here's our chance. This is what we get. I actually find it quite difficult to keep the routine. I miss the sense of being surrounded by everyone at the temple, but thankful for the virtual classes. Yeah, the routine is hard. I miss the Buddha behind you. Yeah, definitely. I could put a screensaver up behind me, I guess, or soon I'll probably go back to filming at temple, but just haven't gone back to that yet. I think the routine, my suggestion, and then we'll go ahead and get started here with the meditation. My suggestion is put this on your calendar just like any other time. And obviously you're here right now, so you knew to show up Saturday at 11 or whatever time you sit. But if you want to sit on your own at other times, try to treat it just like going to a class. I know that's difficult and it's easy to be distracted, but if you want to sit every Wednesday at 4 p.m., then just put that on your calendar and block out 30 minutes and turn your phone off if you can, and just give yourself that time. Yeah, Cynthia, you bring up a good point. I always say, there's a lot of people that I've been sitting with for 7, 8, 10 years, and I've maybe never had a conversation with you, or maybe don't know your names. And at first that might sound kind of shocking or strange or rude or weird, but I've actually found it to be one of the most beautiful things of the Dharma Bums over the years, is that, I understand the importance of Sangha and people connected with people, but I think it's really beautiful to sit with somebody for 10 years and probably never have had a conversation with them, but we still show up and we just hold that space. And I think that's important too. So, Marisa, both more and less challenging. I appreciate that I was able to be with all of you when I had to travel. Right now I'm on my own back from morning walk and can still participate. Yeah, definitely. So the options, the availability of having it here is nice. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll get started with the meditation. Couple things to tell you before we begin. For those who are maybe sitting for the first time, nothing's going to happen to you. You won't float away. You won't have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice. Meaning, don't ask yourself, is it working? Is it not working? Am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? We're just going to sit. We're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds. It's another thing that's different. The temple has sounds. Sounds outside, sounds of the bathroom door being open and closed, especially closed. The sounds of the shoe rack, shoes being put on or off, falling off the rack. The sound of somebody coughing, the sound of a person walking by the temple, the sound of the bell. There's all these sounds at temple. The sounds of the neighbor's air conditioning units. There's all these sounds that we just get used to and we learn to be okay with. But for some reason at home, people often have this idea that the sounds are bad or wrong. So try to treat the sounds at home no different than anywhere else. Posture, you just want to be comfortable. If you're sitting up straight, helps to slide, or sitting on a cushion helps slide to the front third, pushing the stomach forward. Allows the back to straighten, shoulders are relaxed, hands can be on the knees or lap. I'll guide us as we begin, and we'll settle into a little bit of silence. Most important, don't expect anything. We're just going to sit and breathe. And starting with the eyes closed if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed. Start with taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And eventually settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Knowing throughout the practice you'll hear sounds. These are not distractions, not disruptions. Simply what's happening around us as we sit. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. Start with gently guiding the attention, focus to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath, expecting nothing but to sit and breathe. And as the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it, release that thought, return attention, focus to the breath. Where's your mind? Return attention, focus to the breath. Keeping the mind alert, aware of each sound, each thought, each physical sensation, yet concerned with nothing but sitting, breathing. Letting go of expectations, letting go of judgments from the practice, just sitting, breathing. And with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle, know what it's like to just sit and breathe, knowing with each breath there's nothing else to do, nowhere else to go, no one else to be. Everything beautiful, just as it is. Sitting, breathing. And once again, taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. As you slowly open the eyes, slowly begin to move. And most important, with the practice of meditation, is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you'd prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, has nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how we sit and hold the hands or cross the legs. It's nothing to do with the sounds around us or anything else for that matter. It has everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada, dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakened. He was a human being no different than any one of us who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. What this means very simply is every moment of our lives, things happen and we react. More stuff happens, more reactions. That's it. This practice is simply learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. For most of us, the way you responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to every other moment of your life. So all we're working on is closing the gap to where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as motivated, just as driven, just as productive, but with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. It's not an easy practice. It's not necessarily fun. Meditation is not an escape. It's direct perception into the present moment. It's learning to sit and breathe and be with things as they are. Letting go of the stories in our head, the attachments, the egos. Letting go of the judgments, the critiques, the expectations. And just sitting and abiding in sensation of breath. That's all. Meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. Sitting, breathing, becoming aware of what you think, say, and do. And that's all. For me, I've always tried to simplify this practice, not to have any sort of ideas of gaining or goals or accomplishments, but simply just to be aware of my own karma, to be aware of all I think and all I say and all I do and the impact that will have on the world around me. That's it. Once we stop trying to change, fix, control, manipulate everything and everyone around us, and we work on changing our mind and our reaction to the world around us, life gets simpler. But it's a practice. So with that, I'd like to pause. And for those who are joining us for the first time, welcome. Thanks for being here. I always like to use the rest of the time to just open up to questions. There's a chat box there on the screen. So any questions you may have about meditation, Buddhist practice, please, if you're here for the first time, don't be shy. Often the beginner questions are the best questions. So I'll go ahead and give a few moments for people to type in any questions they have. And then, like I said, I'll use the next 20 minutes just to respond to questions. I'd like to hear more about dependent origination. So when the Buddha was awakened, and I don't mean woke up from sleep, but when he had what they call the awakening, it was the really deep understanding of dependent origination and the causal relationship of all phenomena. That everything is contingent upon something else for its existence, that nothing exists in and of itself without relationship to something else. The entire world is the law of karma, which is cause and effect. Karma is action, what we think, what we say, and what we do. And this law of karma, this law of cause and effect, is what occurs. It's not about it being anything good or bad or right or wrong or any big special event. It's just the reality that our worlds are every moment the law of cause and effect. So when the Buddha had this awakening, he understood the deep connection and relationship between all phenomena. Now, if we understand this, I believe that it really helps us understand that these temporary emotions of anger or hatred or happiness or excitement, these are all just illusions. These are temporary feelings and emotions based on views and judgments of a situation. Now, let's take, for example, because most of you aren't here because you're happy and joyful all the time. You're here because you're angry or sad or depressed or stressed or anxious. So let's take the emotion of anger, for example, and apply dependent origination to it. So understanding causal relationship of all phenomena, we may have some one person who says something and it makes us angry. And all we think about or focus on is how that person's words hurt us. Now, most of the time, for most people, and I'm just using this as very broad, when I say most people, I'm talking about people that I've sat with or talked to or worked with over the years, is someone does something that harms us and we decide to hate them for it because we don't like it. Well, dependent origination really requires that you understand the causal relationship of all phenomena, as I've said about 5 times, meaning every situation that's occurred in someone else's life for them to have done the thing or said the thing they did, which we then responded to with anger. So when someone says something that hurts us, we don't usually step outside of our ego and think, I wonder what this person's going through. I wonder what pain they've had inflicted upon them, or what sadness they've experienced in their life, or what loss or sorrow or trauma they've gone through. We just think, how did they make me feel? And they become this like permanent object or idea. And all we think about is us. So for me, understanding the causal relationship of all phenomena means for any person to have said something to me, I need to first explore the reality that they've had a trillion things over a trillion years happen to them. And yet just because they say one thing that hurts me, I'm going to be pissed off and think they're terrible. That's a very selfish view without understanding anything about the person. And this isn't about saying what they did is right or wrong or good or bad. I'm sure we could all agree on most things. I could say this person did this and we would all raise our hands and say bad. I could say this person did this and we'd all raise our hands and say good. And then there's a bunch of stuff that'd be split down the middle. But this is about going beyond that and understanding that people only act from their own karma, their own experiences, their own actions. It also helps us understand there's a 4th century Buddhist philosopher, Nagarjuna, 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 and a brilliant Buddhist teacher. And he writes a lot. The book titled Fundamental Wisdom of the Middle Way. And he writes a lot about dependent origination and there being no beginning, no end. That you can't have something come from nothing. Everything comes from something. And I always like to relate these teachings to just people, because that's where most of us suffer, is from the actions of ourselves and others. You could apply dependent origination, emptiness to cars and chairs and I think I did that a week ago, break down all these examples of where does it begin, where does it end. But I personally find it more applicable to apply to humans, that we don't know where any person started, we don't know where they're going, we just see them for what it is and we think that's it. And that's our own ignorance. So hopefully that's helpful. Dependent origination. Other questions? Meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with. I think it's important also, just as a follow-up thought, to begin to see where um, where this teaching plays out in your life. Now, it's on one hand, it plays out every moment of your life, every second of your life. So that's a very easy answer. Well, where does it play out in my life? Everywhere, every moment. Um, but where does it play out in your life that it is actually causing harm, physically, mentally, emotionally, for yourself or others? I think is a great practice to begin with. How your attachments to views, your expectations of others, your disappointments in people or in yourself from the past, where all these things are playing out in your life. Very important to know this. And this is where the practice of compassion comes in, because maybe someone did something that harmed you and we just want to say we hate them and carry anger our whole life. So that's not beneficial to anyone. Meditating with eyes open has helped with sleepiness during meditation, but I find they automatically close at times and then I return to them open along with returning to the breath. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I think, and I talked about this, Bill, is probably when you asked last Saturday, that if you have trouble with sleepiness, the simple way to do it is open your eyes during meditation. And for me as a Zen practitioner with my meditation, it's my eyes are open anyways. They're just looking straight down. And I think as you begin this eyes open practice, you will, whether you're tired or not, have a tendency to have the eyes just kind of close, because, you know, you're not really used to having them open like 10% of the way or 20% or whatever it is. So they tend to just close. And then that close can become a trigger to bring you back to the present moment. Oh, my eyes have closed, open them slightly, back to the breath. So doing that can actually be beneficial to your meditation, because it actually, as I said, brings you back to the present moment. So it's great. And then eventually, the more you practice eyes open, it won't seem so odd or foreign or new to you. It'll become just more routine. And your eyes slightly open will be just as comfortable as if they were closed. And as anything, it's just a practice. So keep working on it. Other questions? Yes, it has helped in just that way. Now I have 2 ways to track whether I'm in the present. Yeah, definitely. Anytime we can use kind of tools to help us stay present is beneficial. Other thoughts, questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with? Making it easy on me today. Thanks. I appreciate it. Anything else? I've recently started focusing on the sensations in the body during sitting. I'm under the impression this would be beneficial. for regulating emotion in tense moments. My initial reaction to your comment is you're thinking too much. So I'll touch on this, and then the question about Buddhist thought on life after death, and then we'll close. So my guess is, Chris, as you're new to Buddhism, which many people are, it's a beautiful place to be. But based on things you've shared and questions you've asked, you're trying way too hard, my friend. And I mean that with all due respect. My suggestion is, don't try to do so many things with meditation. You can't force what happens or doesn't happen. My suggestion is, don't try to achieve anything. Do not use meditation as a way of gaining in your meditation practice. Simply sit for no reason other than to sit. Now, if you want to become aware of sensations in the body when you're sitting, that's a beautiful practice. Breathing in, I feel my knee hurts. Breathing out, I'm going to come back to the breath. Breathing in, I feel a twinge in my back. Breathing out, I come back to breath. Breathing in, I feel the cool temperature on my ear. Breathing out, come back to breath, however you want to do it. But that's it. I wouldn't use it. Again, I'm taking the part about focusing on sensations, and then you're under the impression this would be beneficial for regulating emotions in a tense moment. That's my suggestion, is that you're trying too hard. Just focus on the meditation practice. Don't use it to hope that it's going to fix something. When you have intense moments, that's a whole different story. When you have intense moments, just recognize the impermanence of them, and they will pass. I wouldn't try to correlate. My guess is maybe you read something somewhere that said, oh, if you focus on sensations of the body, then when you have an intense moment, just come back to the feeling in the body and the intense moment will go away. I'm not necessarily disagreeing with that, but I don't necessarily take that approach. My suggestion would be, recognize the intense moment is just a moment. The only thing that makes it intense is your view and judgment of it. So see each moment as simply passing moments, the impermanence of it, not tied to the expectation or outcome, but just see it for another experience. So that's how I approach really that question. Again, to sum up, focusing on sensations of body is a beautiful practice to stay present. When intense moments arise, as you say, recognize that they are only intense because you've labeled it as intense, and begin to look at that moment as temporary and illusory, not trying to use meditation to decrease intensity of moments. I don't find that beneficial. So hopefully that's helpful. Keep practicing, but the questions, which are great, are very much along the lines which I've heard for years of someone who's new to Buddhism, which is wonderful, is reading Buddhist stuff, which is wonderful, but is then trying to grasp onto what they're reading and make it some concrete idea, and then make that idea fit into your life. And that last part is actually the opposite of what I think Buddhism is really teaching. Don't try to make it fit or to force it. Just do the experience of sitting. So hopefully that's helpful. I'll close on the thoughts around Buddhism and life after death. So there's about 72 different ways I respond to this question. So I'll just respond to it in whatever's hitting me at this moment. At the time of the Buddha, it's important to understand that everybody in India 2,500 years ago, 500 years before Christ, believe in some form of rebirth or reincarnation. So if you walked up to somebody when the Buddha was alive and you told them that they were going to die and then go to heaven or hell, they would have thought you were kind of crazy, right? Again, this is 500 years before Christ. So this idea of God and Christ that we have now didn't exist at that time when the Buddha was alive. They had Hindu gods, lots of them, and goddesses, lots of them. And they all believed that there was a rebirth or continuation of consciousness. It's called a Laya Vijnana, or a some sort of reincarnation. And fundamental wisdom of the middle way, Amy. Fundamental wisdom of the middle way. Back to the rebirth. So fast forward to today, and people get into Buddhism or Hindu, teachings, and they learn about rebirth and they think that maybe, the Buddha invented this or something like that. So he didn't invent it. He was raised Hindu, and Hindu religion and belief then and now believed in a rebirth or reincarnation. So it's first important to understand that that's what everybody believed when the Buddha was teaching. Now, another way to look at it is that every moment we die and we are reborn. And that the only thing that we attach to, well, that's the wrong way to say it. One of the things we attach to is the physical form. And we think this is my body and I am Jeff and this is me and this is permanent. And this is it. And when I die, I'm done. I like to look at the body as just a shell. It's a vessel for my consciousness. My consciousness has lived for endless time and it will continue for endless time, just like Nagarjuna's teaching, no beginning, no end. Formless. That's the consciousness. The consciousness enters the body, physical form. This physical form will exist for a period of time. It will die, and the consciousness will continue. And that consciousness will, very technical Buddhist teachings, they'll tell you that there's different traditions teach it differently, but the way I learned it was that there's the consciousness that leaves the body for 49 days. It will be out of the body, and at some point over the 49 days, you will have the sperm, you'll have the egg, they come together, they have consciousness that enters, and there you have life. Now, another way to look at this, which is a great teaching, there was a Buddhist monk when I was at the monastery in Taiwan, and he summed it up very simply, and he said, the mistake that we make is we think there is this life, and we want to know about our next life. He said it's all one big continuous life, but this physical form makes us think that there's life after death. No beginning, no end. No, Thich Nhat Hanh teaches this a lot. No birth, no death. One endless continuation that has physical forms that come together and cease to exist. And the funny thing is, most people ask about, like, what's next after this life? Well, we are what was next after our last life. A last life. Not our last life. A last life. It's not ours. We don't own it. I just like to think of it as this consciousness is kind of renting this physical body for a while. And if this consciousness is fortunate enough to be exposed to these beautiful teachings, don't screw it up. And if you want to leave consciousness in good form for the next rebirth, then don't screw it up. If you want to understand your past karma, look at your present life. If you want to understand your future karma, look at your present life. So the last thing I'll say before we close is a lot of people get into Buddhism and meditation and have no interest or belief or whatever in rebirth or reincarnation, and that's totally fine. I really don't. I never speak on it unless it's asked, which I'm happy to. I think it can be very confusing for a Western audience that didn't grow up believing in rebirth or reincarnation. And ultimately, all that matters, whether you believe in heaven or hell, or whether you believe in rebirth or whatever it is, or, hungry ghost realms or heavenly realms, whatever belief you have, all of it is determined for the most part on what you do now. So that's the focus. Rebirth and reincarnation and death and things like that are maybe fun to read and study if you're into that. But again, I'm not too wrapped up in this deep study of it. I like to focus on what are we doing now. But I will say this as a final thought. I'm a big fan of rebirth, and I'm a big fan of people taking it more seriously, even though I don't talk on it a lot, because if you actually believed in it, you might change your behavior. So if you knew that you were going to be reborn and you were just going to continue your consciousness, you might do better things with it. So keep that in mind. So I'll close on that. We'll join palms. May the benefit of this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May all be at peace. May all be free from suffering. So thanks all for being here. Couple quick announcements before you head out. My name is Jeff. I'm a Dharma bum. We opened up the temple about 14 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice for those who show up. So those of us who lead, we're not monks or nuns, we're not gurus, we're not masters or teachers, we're just practitioners. We do our best to take in our understanding of Buddhist teachings and put it into terms that hopefully show up or hopefully make sense to those who show up. So we closed March 12th because of the pandemic. We will remain closed as long as it's not safe to open, and it's definitely not safe to open. So we have all of our classes, about 90% of our schedules online. And as we discussed earlier, it's not the best scenario, but it's what we got. So we make the best of what we got. Every night, every morning, there's meditation, recovery sangha, family sangha, kids sangha, teen sangha. So there's always something going on. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday on YouTube, and the rest is on Zoom. So appreciate you being here. Buddha for You, as you know, is now open. So if you need anything, it's open for online stuff, not physically. So don't show up there. We've had people actually showing up and saying, I'm here. If the store is closed, you can just purchase stuff online. So if you need anything, let us know. Other than that, thanks for being here. If I never see you again, think good thoughts, speak good words, and do good deeds. And please stay home as much as possible, wear a mask. And I think it's a great Buddhist practice to make sure you don't do anything that would put people at risk. So thank you all.